This and J-Rod Groves from the Air Boss's Force Readiness Analytics Group. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning, John. How are you?
Better every day. How are you, my friend?
Fantastic. J-Rod, do I have you as well? All right. Well, in any case, really happy to be here. I think this is a fantastic opportunity for all of us to get on and just talk about all the successes and opportunities that we have now and have been having. What we've done with the Force Readiness Analytics Group is back in really early 2018, we had Commander Groves, J-Rod, who will be joining us hopefully here in just a second, as well as Lieutenant Commander Blackman, also known as Butterbean. They started asking a lot of questions on the staff at Commander Naval Air Forces specific, and the Chief of Staff at the time had tons of questions as well. Now Rear Admiral Cherico. And they started asking questions that they couldn't necessarily answer, and what they realized is they really needed to move from a reactive organization to a forward-leaning predictive organization. We didn't want to wait for the system to respond with people or analysts or fancy algorithms or spaces. We really just wanted to build a forward-looking analytics team within the staff with people we already had, because we wanted them to be able to tackle those hard problems. Since it was more of a grassroots organization, we literally had, at the time, right before I joined with them, we had two pilots, J-Rod and Butterbean, running around in flight suits around the staff, collecting data from various people, whether it was spreadsheets or, you pick your favorite data file that gets emailed around. And they had to learn how to be a little more agile with everything they did. And as we added people to the team, myself included, we realized we needed to develop processes that would really enable us to go faster, to interact, and bring more value to the customers. One of our favorite sayings as of late has become "running with scissors," and that's just because we wanted to figure out how to go fast. Realizing that there was some risk involved. And what we wanted to do was really give our decision makers, who were, at the time, our main customer was our Chief of Staff. And we wanted to give him the time and space with which he could make those risk-informed decisions without, necessarily being an extremist. Realizing that some decisions are a little bit more short-fused, we wanted to try and give him time back, as opposed to, sifting through the hundreds of emails he was getting, trying to use his intuition and experience to kind of gauge whether or not the decision he was making was the best one. There was lots of data. We knew there was lots of data floating around out there. It was just a matter of wrangling it and making it useful. So one of the key points I want to bring up there is, we had a champion. Rear Admiral Cherico now was a huge supporter of what we were doing. He was very much responsible for standing up the Force Readiness Analytics Group on the staff at Commander Naval Air Forces. And without that champion, without somebody who understood what we were doing and seeing the value in it, it really would have been quite difficult to get anything going. As soon as we went outside the staff and started asking questions, it oftentimes became very difficult until both we and the people we were trying to talk to understood that we had the support of not only our Chief of Staff, but Vice Admiral Miller, who was the Commander Naval Air Forces. And once people understood that we had their support, things became a little easier, but it took time. One of the things that
Hey, I'm up finally. Hey, along that line, what we had air bosses, air boss bullet support, and also we had a crisis, and some people say we're not even out of the crisis, but we took opportunity of that crisis of support, of readiness and the readiness dip, and what we utilize, and we're still working through it, is we use the data to identify our pain points and really accelerate our knowledge and where our issues were, and really start driving change by moving towards a data-driven decision-making process. And that's really we took advantage of the leadership top cover and our readiness challenge at the time to really drive change within the organization. And we still have a lot more work to do, but that crisis really helped us get, because we were able to accelerate and get answers faster and really give them time and space to drive that change. So back over to you, Aaron.
All right, thanks, Rod. So as I said, one of the things we adopted very early on from our chief of staff at the time is at the very beginning, he had on his whiteboard in his office. He had a huge whiteboard in his office that we'd oftentimes go up there and listen to him brainstorm along with us. There would be this thing up there that said, "Be bold, take a shot, and don't be stupid." And we really adopted that. In fact, if you look at any of our swag that we have out there, you'll see the "Be bold." There you go. There's right there on J-Rod's patch. So we took that from there, and we took that as like, hey, run fast, take risks, don't be stupid, but there's going to be failures and successes along the way, and they're okay as long as you're not being stupid. The number of attempts we've made at whether creating a tool, creating network relationships, the successes are far fewer than the failures there, but the types of success we've had have been huge in learning about the organization, getting further down the tracks in terms of how we do business. And it's been huge, and it wouldn't have been possible without both the champions we've had and the risks we took. And they weren't stupid risks. They were calculated risks. They were necessary. So, and that ties right into communications, right? The military is huge on communications. It doesn't happen without communications. So really, the way we've operated within FRAG is really not a lot different now, given our current distributed workforce, than it has been. Now, granted, we're not all in the same room at the same time, but we've been kind of operating on you pick whether it's Slack, whether it's text message, whether it's Jira, using our workflow tools, email, you pick it. We're still able to operate the same way. We just it looks a little differently, but we still have our sprint stand-ups every morning. We still have our sprint planning meetings using Scrum. It looks a little different, but realistically, it's not changed much. What has changed a little bit has been the distractions, but that's going to happen, as I think Sam said just a minute ago. The important thing I wanted to just touch on there was task switching. One of the things we talk about in Scrum pretty heavily is task switching. And what I've realized through this distributed workforce here is that comms switching is also just as bad a lot of times. It sucks up a lot of times when you're switching from email to text to, pick your communication source. That's something that I've learned is really difficult to try and manage. So I've had to whittle that down a little bit. Kind of getting back to the why within our team. Our interior comms were really important. The opportunities we have to establish the comms in our expanding network. not really it's not really new considering our services and decentralized operating construct. But J-Rod, did you have anything on that?
Yeah, I mean, kind of going back to all the aviators in the room, going back to, aviate, navigate, communicate, we're doing the first two. So, comms is that second important part, and, communicating within the team via whatever method you want. And then, also giving the commander's intent, or you start with why, that good book by Simon Sinek, the entire team knows what the purpose is and what we're doing and why we're doing it. And we started there, and really, we can, move fast because of that. Everyone knows what the intent is. And it allows us to do our work, and keep returns up as fast as we can, so we can always, iterate and bring value to our organization and not go do science projects and develop things that'll be shelfware. So that's really big. Everyone knows the intent, we know the why, what we're doing it. And it was really helpful starting out as, our leadership brought us into their office, and we spent hours in there iterating on their boards, and we understand what the intent is, and they essentially let us literally run with scissors, and develop the products for the for aviation enterprise, and just keep going. They've kind of give us bumpers to stay within our lane, but they just let us run, and it's pretty awesome.
Gentlemen, this seems like a good moment to ask. You've been working with a fairly distributed team, right? Producing machine learning-based products, which have made a huge difference in dollars and time for the fleet. This is a good moment to be talking about decentralized work. Any advice for the folks who might be listening from home?
Yeah. I mean, really, it's not easy. It's about establishing those habit patterns and those routines. And just really keeping the comms, going, via email, or, pick your method, but, pick one that works for your team and adapt to it. Cause, we started out, we were doing text, and we started Slack and then email, and we've kind of been switching, methods as a team, especially as the team grows. We've had to adapt to different personalities and, different methods. So it's really being flexible with your communication, before, over the summer and late fall, it was just me and Aaron. Now we've added probably another 4 people to the team on the government lead side of it. So we've had to incorporate that into it and how we operate there. So, keeping the turns up, keeping your sorry, that's a helicopter turn. Keeping things high and always moving and always producing. And the teams know what you need to do, daily at the stand up, get the intent. And then you guys just, they have the goals in mind, and they can operate. And then if there's any questions, they come back for guidance, and we just keep moving. But that's really the biggest thing, is keeping the comms up, and you make sure they know what we're doing. So, Aaron, do you have anything else?
No, I think that's it. I mean, the discipline in your in our Scrum ceremonies has been huge, because those comms are inherent in those ceremonies, and then networking. I mean, I can't tell you how many different tools we've found for just communications, especially now that we're a little more scattered than we normally are. Just in the last 2 weeks, reaching out to the network, hey, what tools work for you? What things like this have been huge. I've got like 4 or 5 different new tools that I wasn't even aware of that we learned about just recently, and it's been huge to make sure that you're not only having good comms within your network, but outside the network as well.
I think one additional thing to add is having discipline in your meetings. I mean, people have an hour meeting or 2-hour meetings. And then as you add more people, and before, and we just changed over our format of our weekly meeting we have, where it's an hour. Before it was 6 of us sitting around a table, and then past 2 months we quickly grew to 16 people around the table and 4 other people on the phone, 5 people on the phone. I realized our meeting was not effective, so we had to switch. We violated the 2 pizza rule, so we had to switch up our method of our meeting, and empower the government leads to work with their teams. And then kind of like for the aviators, you kind of have an AOM where your department heads brief what's going on in your department, and then have the team members pipe in if there's something else they need to add. but just having discipline in your meetings and, value, the team members, the rest of the team members' time, being succinct and get your point across and preparing for the meetings is valuable as we work through this time. Over.
Gentlemen, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much for making time today. I know you're both in the GAL, so those who have particular questions can follow up with you, Aaron Thiss and Jared Groves at Navy Down Mill, respectively. Really appreciate all the work that you're doing out there and the incredible amount of time that you've put in, not only those projects, but also to communicating the lessons you've learned across the fleet and permitting us to help you to do the same thing. Thank you for that. Real quick, before we move over to Daniel, I just want to remind everybody, our CAWcast today is brought to you by the Centers for Adaptive Warfighting, powered by NavalX, so the Office of the Assistant Secretary in the Navy for Research, Development, and Acquisition, but really run, and all the drive shaft work is done by people like the people that you're going to be hearing from over all the course of today, which is part of why we're so excited to toss the mic whenever we can. The big questions are about connectedness, about the opportunities that our newly redistributed and distributed world affords to us. And what sort of cool work the people who are solving that problem also get to do in the course of communicating that way.